Ahoy, mateys! It's time to get on board the HMAS Hawkwind and go in search of space. And to do that, we need this lovely little document here, the album In Search of Space, or whichever way we want to call it. And this is an original Australian pressing of the album. So we can see we can pull it apart with the no, we can't. We can't create a Space Hawk at all. But that's okay, because if we open up the gatefold, no, not on the original Australian pressing, but that's fine because we've got the 28-page color booklet inside the Hawk log. No, it's embossed. It's embossed, which is about as good as we can go. And we have it on this beautiful psychedelic United Artists Records album cover. But what we do have inside is some melting space rock. We've got Dave Anderson on bass. He was from Amon Dull 2 and Van de Graaff Generator. We have Terry Ollis on the drums. We have Dik Mik and Dettmar on the electronics operation, and Nik Turner on saxes and flutes, and Dave Brock, of course, on guitars. So it's time to climb aboard and take a deep dive into this album, but I warn you, enter at your own risk. Side one kicks off with "You Shouldn't Do That," and at the start we get all these electronic sounds and oscillators zooming around our headspace before this relentless driving rhythm starts to kick in. And let me tell you, it is absolutely relentless. Some people have referred to this as being trance-like or hypnotic, while others might see it more like an adrenaline horror show. Whether you're wanting the music to just swirl all over the top of you and keep you moving and keep you intensely in the moment, or whether you want to be just given some respite from this propulsive drive, it's really up to you and the psychoacoustic state you're in at the time. And the bass drumming here is boom, 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 is absolutely relentless. And we have electronics, wah guitar, and sax all swirling as the rhythm section keeps the pedal to the metal and keeps the ship on course, full steam ahead, pun intended. And this song, in many ways, I've listened to now about 4 or 5 times, and this song reminds me of T.S. Eliot's line, which is, and when I am formulated, sprawling on a pin, when I am pinned and wriggling to the wall, I get this sense that I just cannot escape it, that it's pressing towards me, and it won't let go of me until I completely submit to its total domination, and I'll be pinned, wriggling on that wall. It kind of also reminds me a lot of Acid Mother's Temple. I once saw them in Nashville in America, and it was very much that same sort of deal, that this force was coming at you and you couldn't get out of the way of it. You couldn't leave the room. You were just going to be pinned against the back wall. And it's interesting to hear that what Nik Turner says at the time about the amount of acid consumption. And he says, I think I took LSD every day for 2 years. We were tripping when we did it, but it's still saying something. And the lyrics, you're getting nowhere, you're getting no air, you're getting aware. They merge together. It's spontaneously calculated. Well, they do. And I do love when we cut down into the lyrics with, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do that. Um, but it's our ebbs and flows really are down to the lyrical section, the vocal section, and then back up to this propulsive beast that's coming at us the whole time. At 16 minutes, you're checking in for a wild ride if you go there. And it definitely is a question of whether you want to be in that headspace for 16 minutes every day of the week. I'm not sure. But then we move into there for the second song on the first side, which is You Know You're Only Dreaming. And there's this sense of John Lennon meeting Gimme Shelter, Gimme Shelter here, excuse me. Dave Brock sings and Dik Mik gives us these seagull sounds. Nick adds flutes all before the takeoff. And then there's echoes of Interstellar Overdrive here. Once again, very forceful, very chaotic. And I love Dave Anderson's fierce and pounding, but I also think it's slightly farty or elastic bass sound as well. Lyrics on here which are interesting are chaos all within my mind. Try to reach and I want to be with my own kind. Visions of you, visions of you know you're only dreaming. Visions of you know you're only dreaming. Wow, what a voyeuristic sort of lyric there, that the visions of you can see that you're only dreaming. Um, there's no let up on this side at all. it has you pinned and formulated and sprawling on a pin, pinned and wriggling on the wall all throughout. And it is with a sense of exhalation that finally we get to the end of the first side. And I've listened to this in various different situations, and sometimes it works for me, and sometimes I just want to get off, but it's very difficult to do so. Let's see what it sounds like on the other side of the album. Side two kicks off with probably the most famous song on this album, Master of the Universe, which has been played in concerts for many years after this album was released. And this is its popularity has come down to what Dave Brock calls this relentless riff. And there's that sense of relentlessness, that propulsion one more time. But it's also because it's a really great example of proto punk. And this is a shorter version than what would be seen on live concerts in the years ahead. But throughout it, we have electronics bubbling, percolating, and whooshing. And there's a huge reliance on the flanger sound, which wasn't totally ubiquitous in music at the time. But the flanger sound here creates these wonderful swirls of spiraling goodness. Lyrics come down to I am the center of the universe. The wind of time is blowing through me. Has the world gone mad, or is it me? And I guess early on in the second side, that's probably a question that we all are asking at the moment. We need some answers. But there's finally a break, finally a moment to really take that meditative moment to go, because we took the wrong step years ago begins. And it's all acoustic guitars and lush 12 strings. It's came from a Dave Brock busking song, and it gives us a sense of the pastoral, a sense of the rural, and a sense of beauty, of nature and connectivity with nature. But that's all pretty much shattered when we look at the lyrics, and that sense of bucolic has gone. Take a look around and see the warnings close at hand. Already weeds are writing their scriptures in the sand. The morning sun is rising, casting rays upon the land. Already nature's calling. Take heed of the warning. We took the wrong step years ago. And the electronics of Dettmar and Dik Mik throughout, particularly once the song builds up into this sublime jam, and it is absolutely, to me, it's the moment on the album. But the electronics which are swirling give us the sense that it's not time to stay on planet Earth, but hit the space arc and head off into space. As I said, that jam is absolutely superb. And the next song from there gives us a sense of little bit more darkness, but it's called Adjust Me. And this song germinated and sprung from a jam, and it gets dismissed by some, but it works for me. The vocals start, they're very freaky at the moment. The pitch is that raised, and we enter the city of blind men. All androids are going, are all saying, Adjust me, adjust me, adjust me. It's very robotic and it's very freaky. I'm hearing shades of Painted Black and 8 Miles High in the middle jam, and there's still those sort of hints, those tastes, those textures of Interstellar Overdrive by Pink Floyd. Definitely a song that works for me because it just doesn't go full out the whole time, but it gives us that sense of foreboding drive, which is still very, very trippy, but not quite as viscerally assaultive. And then we come up to the final track on the album, which is called Children of the Sun. And it's not the great Billy Thorpe space rock epic. Billy Thorpe, Australian, love him. No, it's not that at all. What happened here was that the producer discovered that they were 5 minutes short of completing an album. And I don't know how this all works out because there's a lot of albums which are shorter than 37 minutes, and it eventually got to 42 minutes. But apparently, he rang up some of the band members, I think Nik Turner, at 1 o'clock in the morning and said, You got to get down to the studio and record another song because we've got to use all of our studio time or our vinyl time, our wax time, whatever it is. Anyway, so Nik Turner and who was it? Dave Anderson got the call and went and hurriedly put together this song, Children of the Sun. And that's probably why we have such a very simple acoustic riff, which is still propulsive. It's still invasive, but it's much, much simpler. And we've gone from that foreboding doom lyrically and the sense of all is lost, everything's chaotic, it's time to get into outer space, And we come to a much more positive message from Mother Nature at the end of the album to send us away with. We are children of the sun, and this is our inheritance. No longer chaos and confusion, but love and laughter, song and dance. And there's a beautiful build up after these lyrics with electronics, the wah guitar, the flute is absolutely beautiful here by Nik Turner. And then a distorted guitar riffage comes in from Dave Brock, and we're thinking, well, this is going somewhere. Is this going into some more mind-melting warp speed style assault from Hawkwind? But no, just as it's about to go into that, you shouldn't do that type of mind-melting warp speed territory, it fades out. And which is really interesting because you know what, we're being given a choice at the end. Do we want to flip the disc and go back to that you shouldn't do that mind melting warp speed territory, or like the wary traveler that I am, are we going to lift the needle and return it to the start of side B for a little bit more Masters of the Universe and the rest of the hour and the rest of that side with those three beautiful songs that follow? I'm a huge fan of side B of this album, and it's a sort of side that I could listen to repeatedly, as opposed to side one, which I may have to take it in little doses every now and then. And these four songs which make up side B mean that this album is definitely a keeper, and I'm very thrilled to have it in my collection. I think I'd love to give the final word on Hawkwind's existence and this album to the saxophonist flautist Nik Turner at the time. Before then, I come in at the end to summarize and give my actual final word. Anyway, here it is. He talks about drugs, and particularly LSD, being such a huge influence on the band. And apparently, he had large doses of liquid LSD, which he used to give away to audience members in the middles of the show. And he says, I think it really compounded the band's popularity because people still come up to me and say, wow, that gig you did in 1971, it changed my life. And that's when Nik Turner says, you sure it wasn't the acid? And I think that's a really good way to sum up this album. If the trip that you're on, or your state of mental wellness, your well-being, whatever you want to call it, if the trip that you're on at the time is one of positivity, then I think you're going to really love this album. But if you're on a bummer trip, a bad trip, then I'd steer clear, at least from side A, and maybe just explore some of the more mellow delights on side two. Anyway, it's been a complete pleasure talking with you about In Search of Space by Hawkwind from 1971. And remember, if music of any size, shape, or space gives you pleasure, then who am I to argue with your opinion? It'd be great if you'd be able to give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and maybe check out some of the other videos that are on the Institute of Pop website. But until next time, hope you're all really doing well, and bye now.